This is The Guardian. Look, if just one person appreciates that reference, I will die a happy man, possibly even today. Welcome to Mr. Sitter, the Mr. Sitter podcast. It's me, Locash. The group stage of the World Cup has come to a just super exciting conclusion. We're going to unpack all of it today, in addition to talking about the group stage as a whole, as far as who the team of the group stage was, in my opinion, and who the flop 11 of the group stage was, and we're going to preview tonight's matches. So, big jam-packed episode today. Let's crack into it. There's going to be no complaints about the way people behave on social media today, so if you're here for that, tune in a couple of days. I'm sure I'll be ranting about dickheads on TikTok again, but there's none of that today. There is just the show and the matches. I am dressed once again by False 9 Threads. This is my favorite of the shirts that they've sent me. This is, of course, Alessandro Del Piero, iconic moment, scoring against Real Madrid in the Champions League. You now have to deal with two Alessandro Del Pieros in one frame for one episode. You're going to be able to handle it, guys? We'll see. For those that are audio only, don't worry about it. So yeah, False 9 Threads. Follow them on Instagram. Get some of your t-shirts for this summer from False 9 Threads. Iconic football moments captured in streetwear. Some huge results overnight. Some huge shocks, as has been the theme of this final little stretch of matches in the group stage. It's been anything but predictable, and I am the one that should be... I know firsthand that it's been anything but predictable, because a lot of my predictions have been very, very wrong. And, you know, for the first two rounds, I was doing pretty damn well, guys. But I'm going to hang my hat on saying that Japan were going to beat Spain before the tournament started, and no one can take that away from me, so go fuck yourselves. Let's crack on with the first game. Grudge match number one was Ghana versus Uruguay. It ends 2-0 to the heel of the match, Uruguay winning. No revenge for Ghana for 2010, which, you know, I don't know if they really deserved. Luis Suarez was interviewed and he was like, I'm not going to apologize. I took the red card. It wasn't me that missed the penalty. I totally agree. I totally agree with him. You know, he missed the semi-final. He sacrificed one for his nation. Grow up. Get over it, Ghana. So no revenge for them. Man, This was a decent game to watch. I love to watch Darwin Núñez. This guy is just so funny. He is bang, crash, all action, runs into people. He's raw. The fact that anybody was comparing this guy to Erling Haaland earlier in the season is fucked. It's crazy. They're not even on the same level. Darwin Núñez isn't even on Dusan Vlahovic's level, and that's not bias. I mean, maybe it is bias, but it's also what I think is the truth. You know what I mean? The starting goalkeeper for Ghana is a guy called Lawrence Ati Ziggy, who pulled off a great save later in the game. He plays with St. Gallen in Switzerland, and he is... with his dreads, the way that he was kind of meandering around the goal line, his save, his name, he is the coolest guy in the tournament so far. It's a shame that we're not going to be seeing him again. I want to hang out with him. So, Ziggy, if you're listening and you don't want to go back to Switzerland just yet after the World Cup, you don't want to go home to Ghana, come hang out, bro. Let's have a beer. Ghana had an opportunity to go 1-0 up. They received a penalty. But of course, as fate were to deem it, he missed. Andre Ayew missed. Ghana just do not succeed in penalties when it comes to Uruguay. So Andre Ayew, unlucky. He was the only guy that played against Uruguay in 2010 in that famous match. And yeah, I guess it still haunted him. And then Uruguay, quick succession, 2 goals from a guy called De Arrascaeta, who plays for Flamengo in Brazil. He's young. He wears the number 10 for Uruguay. Especially the second goal, was a pretty cool, nifty little finish. Wouldn't be surprised to see this guy banging around in some European team soon. He was pretty good. He played a little bit against Portugal as well. And Suarez, Luis Suarez, played well. He hasn't played well in I don't even know how long, since he was a protagonist in Atletico Madrid winning the title a couple of seasons ago. He hasn't played well, but he did play really well against Ghana because, of course he did. and he was complicit in the team winning, but they won, but they lost because somehow, against all odds, Portugal lost to South Korea, who see themselves through to the next round. Very surprising. I did not think this was going to happen, even though Portugal did field a very weakened 11, that still included Cristiano Ronaldo, because of course he wanted to play against South Korea, because of course he's going to take any opportunity to just get his goal tally up. Don't need a rest. He played. He didn't play very well, because he hasn't played very well this whole tournament, because he hasn't played very well for a long time. Portugal scored to go 1-0 up. Their goal was created by Diogo Dalot of Manchester United, whose contract is running out at the end of this season, and I understand a lot of teams are lining up for him, but I believe Manchester United do have an automatic 1-year activation clause in his contract where if they deem it, they can just renew him for a year. He, to me, is one of the most underrated players in Europe. He was great when he played for Milan. He's been great any opportunity he's been given for Manchester United, and this season he is the first choice at United, doing very, very well. I think that Portugal should start him at right back moving forward. Given that Nuno Mendes is injured, put Cancelo at left back, which I think he's better at left back. He plays left back a lot of the time for Manchester City, and he hasn't been that good in this tournament. Dalot is great. Set up the goal. And then Korea just fucking turned it on. Their first goal came as a result of a set piece, which they have been very good at in this tournament. And I'm remiss to say that it is Portugal's Achilles heel, defending against set pieces, because we just don't know what. I don't think a lot of teams have been playing in this third. A lot of teams are already qualified, like Brazil and France in particular. They played squads. There's played teams in this third game that are obviously like their second 11, because they want to give the main guys a rest. They've already qualified, and they want to give these guys who may not otherwise play a match at the World Cup. Which means that the sample is completely contaminated. There's nothing to tell about Portugal, France, or Brazil in these matches from what their 11 in them has done. So I don't want to say that their weakness is set pieces, but it's something interesting to keep track of. And then Son Heung-min, who has been very maligned in this World Cup. He's been sad. He was crying in the previous game. Somebody took a selfie with him crying. It looks like his tears were very premature. He had an amazing run to set up the second goal. They managed to hold Portugal out, and they are in the next round. South Korea, technically the third Asian team in the next round after Japan and Australia. It really pains me to call Australia an Asian team. We play in the Asian region. We are not Asian. That's neither here nor there. And I'm really, really happy that Korea made it through in lieu of Uruguay, mostly because of that Fede Valverde controversy that he's historically done, like a slanty-eyed celebration. I'm not going to replicate it here, but he's done the celebration which, deemed to be extremely racist, even though he has come out and said it's not. I don't really see how you can say it's not. And given that Luis Suarez has been in trouble for racism against black people in the past, which his is like he referred to Patrice Evra as the negrito, which means little black guy. But it's how you refer to your black friend in Uruguay is what he's come out and said. I don't want to say, you don't want to point the finger and say racist. So I sort of gave Suarez the benefit of the doubt with that when it happened like fucking 10 years ago. But this Valverde shit, I don't see how it can not be. So sucked into Uruguay, South Korea all the way. Probably not all the way because they're playing Brazil. It's probably the end of the line for them, but it's great that they made it into the next round. These games, for me, were the entrees. They were the appetizers to the game that I was most looking forward to, the actual grudge match of the round. Winner take all, Serbia versus Switzerland, which was a great game. It ended 3-2 to the Swiss and was so disappointing for me. Going into this World Cup, there were 4 teams. Like, I'm supporting the Socceroos, contrary to what a lot of fuckheads on the internet might think. I'm Australian, I'm supporting the Socceroos, but there were 4 teams that I was keeping my eye on, that I wanted to do really well, that I felt were a little bit under-heralded, that I felt were a bit under the radar, and that people were going to be very surprised at how well they did. And those teams were Ecuador, Morocco, Japan, and Serbia. I'm pretty happy to say that in 3 of those cases I was correct. Unfortunately, Ecuador didn't make it through the group, but they acquitted themselves objectively very, very well. Morocco and Japan obviously making it through, topping each of their groups, so very, very happy with those picks. Of those teams, Serbia to me seemed like the biggest lock, the least under the radar team, the team that was being most heralded, and probably my favorite team because I am the Dusan Vlahovic stan of all stans. I love that guy. There are so many other Serie A players in this Serbia team, and I thought that they were going to do really, really well. Nobody has disappointed me more than Serbia. They lost 3-2 to the Swiss, which means they conceded 8 goals across 3 games, and the team that they conceded fewest goals to was Brazil. Shaqiri opened the scoring with a neat little finish from the right-hand side of the box, and it was the way the goal was set up would be basically how Switzerland would attack Serbia the whole game, which is how Cameroon attacked on the counter and scored all their goals. They managed to exploit the space in between the back 3 and the wing-backs in the midfield, because the wing-backs, Filip Kostic on the left, who's a magnificent player, and that guy who plays for PAOK on the right, whose name I'm not going to remember right now, but he was shit. I didn't like him in this tournament at all. They were pushing too far up and they didn't give defensive cover, which means the back 3 were always under pressure by 4 or 5 players at all times on the counter-attack, and it's what happened. It's what was Serbia's undoing in this tournament. But they got back in. Mitrovic, header from a Kostic, or should I say a Krustic. Ball in, great header. Probably that, along with Mitch Duke's header against Tunisia, the most delicious looking headers of the tournament. And then I'm so happy that Dusan Vlahovic scored a goal at the World Cup in a very, very Dusan Vlahovic finish. If you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's played in by Mitrovic, and then he hits a shot with his beautiful left foot that is not super duper powerful, but it is just so on target that the keeper keeper didn't have a chance. Unfortunately, DV9 had to go off at halftime. He's been nursing this injury from like a couple of weeks before the World Cup started. He got injured with Juve. He didn't feature for the tail end of our season, and then he's barely played in this World Cup. He was replaced at halftime by the ghost of Luka Jovic, mostly because that guy passed away at some point between moving from Frankfurt to Madrid, and he was indeed a ghost in this game. He did absolutely nothing. As soon as the second half started, the Swiss did exactly what they scored through Embolo at the end of the first half. They scored through Embolo. Same thing, sliced through the space left between the wing backs and the back 3, and then Freuler scored in another slick move that did exactly that. Just carved through them, and it was 3-2. And from there on, you knew, because you know how Switzerland play, they are the most annoying fucking team of the tournament. But somehow, in this game, I like them now. I don't hate them anymore. I like them. They are efficient. They are good at what they do. And you knew that when they went 3-2 up, it was over. You knew that it was over. It was a painful, painful second half to watch. And there was a moment where Serbia earned a free kick sort of in the left space just before the 18-yard box, and Tadic just kind of like squared it to Kostic, who was a little bit close to the cluster of the Serbian players. Kostic, second time, ball in. It was such a beautiful ball that nobody attacked. The closest to it was Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, who we'll be speaking about shortly. Kind of tepidly went up for it, but it was almost like he didn't want to go for the ball because he thought that there'd be players behind him that would go for it, and no one went for it. They just let this amazing ball from Kostic just go through, and that tame jump and lame attempt at the ball from Milinkovic-Savic, and him particular, is emblematic for me of their entire campaign. It was a tepid jump into the World Cup from a team brimming with potential, brimming with talent. I think I think their coach sucks. He is a Yugoslavian football legend, potentially one of the best players that Serbia have ever produced. But Stojkovic is not a good coach. And we'll talk about exactly why in a little bit. We've already spoken about the vulnerabilities that they had between midfield and defense. We'll speak about that in just a moment. Mitrovic fell in the box at one point. It looked like he was shouting that the Swiss defender shoved him. Fabian Schär didn't really touch him at all. It was a really kind of bad dive. And then the Serbs were complaining that there was a handball in the build-up to that. The ref said no. And every single fucking guy on the Serbian bench got up, and it looked like a Sydney riot. You know, it looked like a Sydney United game. Like everyone in bibs on the sideline, like running onto the pitch. Only one of them got a yellow card somehow. Stojkovic had to stop them, and that, again, totally symbolic for who this Serbian team is. They're emotionally and mentally weak, and they don't have the goods to back it up on the biggest stage. They totally fell apart mentally. Mitrovic got a yellow card and then like properly spit coming out of the mouth, abusing the referee afterwards. Granit Xhaka was like, let's see how many of these guys I can get sent off. And he was just like riling them up for the rest of the game. As soon as Denis Zakaria came on, I may as well have turned off the TV. This is a player that I know super duper well. He played at Juve for 6 months, and I was super excited because we signed him at the same time as Vlahovic. It was a great deal for like 9 million euros because his contract was running out in 6 months, and we wanted to get him from Gladbach. I thought it was a great deal. I was hoping that he would end up being a stalwart of Juve's midfield, but the reality is that even though this guy currently plays for Chelsea, he has played for Juventus, he's played for Borussia Mönchengladbach, he is very highly rated, he's got a high rating in FIFA. He's not a good player. He can do one thing very, very well, though, and that is recover the ball in midfield. He doesn't know what the fuck to do with it when he gets it, but he can recover the ball in midfield. As soon as that guy came on, I knew that the Serbs were going nowhere, and it was to be exactly how it was to be. By the end, I was yelling at the television to Serbia to let them score. I was yelling at them to let them score because I wanted the Swiss to top the group, and they would have topped the group had they scored another one, because Brazil lost to Cameroon. Crazy. Cameroon, I had said before the tournament, were one of the weakest teams in the competition. I still don't really think that's not the case. They were pretty lucky to draw against Serbia. It was the Serbians' own deficiencies that let that in. Nonetheless, against a clearly second-string team from Brazil, almost every single player was swapped, including the captain, who was a 39-year-old Dani Alves, which you just absolutely love to see. Cameroon somehow did it, which is really surprising to me, because Brazil's second-string team, quote-unquote, contained the following: Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli, Rodrigo, Antony, Fabinho, Bremer, Eder Militao, and Ederson. Top caliber players who I would assume would have been hungry as fuck to prove that they deserve to be in the starting lineup, and yet somehow they just didn't get up for it. Cameroon defended really, really well and then hit them on the break with who else but Vincent Aboubakar, scores a goal, takes his shirt off, gets sent off because he had already been booked. He doesn't give a fuck. Cameroon weren't in the next round. He took his shirt off to let everyone know, I scored 3 goals at the World. Did he score 3? No, I got 2 goals and an assist, including a beautiful, delicious scoop goal that will be in contention for goal of the tournament. And I'm taking my shirt off so everybody can see how jacked I am. Brazil march on. Brazil aren't going to give a shit, like we spoke about. It's not a sample size for them. Marquinhos didn't play. Danilo didn't play. Alisson didn't play. Casemiro didn't play. You know, all these guys didn't play. The way that they are drilled to be the team that's going to win this tournament, the amazing press that Rafinha and Richarlison do, Vinicius, they didn't play. So who cares, right? And they march on to meet South Korea, who, this is an easy one, guys. There's no way South Korea are going to beat Brazil. Forget about it. Brazil into the quarterfinals relatively easily. And then the other match that permutates out of these results is that Portugal will play Switzerland. You know, I mean, maybe you don't know, but I know, and I'm telling you right now, that's going to be the most boring game of the tournament. Yeah, that is going to be the most boring game of the tournament. Wouldn't be surprised to see it go to penalties. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Cristiano Ronaldo penalty in the 81st minute win it for Portugal. I don't think Switzerland are going to beat them, but I really think Switzerland probably could beat them. Not looking forward to that game in the slightest. It's going to be super boring. I'm just thinking of doing this now. Actually, I hadn't planned to do this, but we should talk about game of the group stage and flop game of the group stage. The first game that sticks out to me as flop game was that England-USA game, but I actually think that Costa Rica-Japan was worse. Costa Rica-Japan was like watching your favorite car crash into a wall over and over again, and then somehow the wall buys the car afterwards. Not good. And then game of the tournament. What was my favorite? Fuck, man, I've watched every single game live, motherfuckers. This is hard to remember. But what was my favorite? What got me up? And do you know what, man? No game got me fist pumping as hard as when Iran scored late against Wales, which is crazy. I never in a million years would have guessed that Iran-Wales would be my favorite game. That was really, really good, but I think I might have to say, yeah, fuck it, Iran-Wales. This was my game. That I enjoyed that the most. Sue me. What are you gonna do? Okay, the group stage is done, and I want to give an appraisal of the players because that's what we do as people that talk about football. And I want to build positivity. So I'm gonna start with my flop 11 of the group stage, and we'll build the energy towards the best 11 because we want to crescendo it towards the end of the podcast as opposed to ending it on a bummer. So we are gonna start with our flop 11. I have decided to go with one player per team. Otherwise, it would just be Qatar plus Aaron Ramsey. Let's start with the goalkeeper. I almost went with the Qatar goalkeeper who played in the first match against Ecuador. He looked so abundantly out of his depth to the point where we didn't see him again. I almost went with Andre Onana, who somehow got himself fired on the job, but he's a really good keeper. So, no, I have gone with Canada's goalkeeper, Borjan. The two mistakes, the one absolutely glaring mistake that he did to let Ziyech score was terrible, and then he was terrible on El Nassiri's goal, and it might be recency bias, but he was terrible. He's my keeper. At right back, it is the Socceroos' very own Nathaniel Atkinson. I don't mean to pile on, and I know that it's tough to pick a player that is in a squad that made the next round, but I've done that a few times here, and Atkinson didn't play. Did he play against Tunisia? I can't remember if he played against Tunisia, but he was last seen by me being scraped off the bottom of Kylian Mbappe's boot. I understand Kylian Mbappe is the best player in the world, not named Adrien Rabiot, but sorry, if you get embarrassed that badly on the world stage, I don't care who you are, you're in my 11. Sorry, Nathaniel Atkinson, right back. The centre backs, I have gone very personal for one of them, very objective with another one. I'm picking Matthias de Ligt for one slot. He played once. He started at the right centre-back slot against Senegal, and Ismail Assar made him look very, very foolish, and it made me very, very happy because he is my Judas. He stabbed Juve in the back and has talked a lot of shit about us in this season, to the point where I put up a video recently on TikTok calling him Judas de Ligt, and somebody commented saying, "Oh, you don't know anything. His name isn't Judas." Dumbasses on TikTok. I knew I couldn't go a whole podcast without mentioning dumbasses on TikTok. He was swiftly replaced by Jurrien Timber in the starting lineup, and he hasn't been seen since. He is my first centre-back in this flop 11, and he partners alongside Nicolas Nkulu of Cameroon, who, Cameroon may have only lost one game. They may have drawn with Serbia, and they may have beaten champions-elect in my books, Brazil, but every single goal that Cameroon conceded at this tournament are directly Nkulu's fault. Go back and check. He totally lost Breel Mbolo for the goal that Switzerland scored, and the 3 goals against Serbia all came in his area. So, sorry, Nicholas Nkulu. At left back, I've decided to put my Qatari player here. It's Homam Ahmed, who was actually the left wing back for Qatar. Every single attack that Qatar were faced went down his flank, basically, especially against Ecuador. That space in between him and the left centre-back was the most exploited, and the left centre-back was actually Qatar's best player for me in the whole tournament. He acquitted himself decently, or as decently as anybody in this team could have. So Homam Ahmed, you're the guy at left back. Sorry, brother. Defensive mid in this lineup, I've gone for Borges, who is one of the central midfielders for Costa Rica. He was just horrible against Spain. He couldn't shield his defense. Pedri and Gavi ran rings around him all day long, and anytime Costa Rica even attempted to launch an attack, he was the fulcrum through which they had to do it, and he couldn't do it. He possibly one of the worst performances in central midfield I've ever seen in a tournament. Then I've gone with 2 sort of attacking centre mids in this lineup. The first one is, unfortunately, one of my favourite Serie A players in the last decade. I am, of course, talking about Papu Gomez, who is now of Sevilla. You can't play this motherfucker as a central midfielder in a World Cup at his age with his size, especially against a team as physical as Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to say it was his fault that they lost to Saudi Arabia, but him being in the midfield certainly like a factor in them losing, and like he was atrocious, and another player that we've barely seen again because the coaches realized, okay, this ain't gonna work. And the second midfielder, I've spoiled it already. This is personal, like the De Ligt one, but this is also kind of way more statistical. I am talking, of course, about Wales's Aaron Ramsey, who he was symbolic for how shit Wales were one of the shittest teams in this tournament, and probably that's due to the fact that Rob Page, the coach, realizes that he has a couple of really good but really old players in the likes of Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey himself, and he probably feels obliged to pay these guys because the rest of the Welsh team, the next generation, just aren't of the same quality, and that results in you fielding 2 out of 11 passengers on the field, and you can have Gareth Bale as a passenger because he is still capable of moments of magic. You cannot have Aaron Ramsey as a passenger as well. He sucks, and he has sucked for a very long time. At right wing, I've picked Thomas Muller. I realize Thomas Muller is not a right winger, but I needed an attacker, and Thomas Muller he's the face of Germany's failure as far as I'm concerned. He retired from the national team after the last World Cup. Hansi Flick brought him back, felt because of his legend, and because he brought him back that he had to play him. Against Japan, he was terrible. Against every single team, he was terrible. Germany were an objectively better team when he wasn't on. And, you could have had behind... I mean, them not playing Füllkrug the whole time after clearly needing a number 9 was just mind-fucking to me. But behind whoever they wanted to play as number 9, when you have the option to have Musiala in the middle, Sane and Gnabry on either side of him, I'm like, these guys all play together for club. I know Muller plays for their club too. These guys all play together for the club. They're all phenomenal players. They're all young, pacey, energetic. Why are you sacrificing that to play Thomas Muller, who's already won the World Cup? Leave him out. He's on the right wing. On the left wing, I have chosen Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Now, I realize that SMS is not a winger, and I'm sure you realize that SMS is not a winger. Unfortunately, Stojkovic didn't realize that SMS is not a winger because he has been playing as an attacking left-sided midfield / winger the whole tournament, which blows my mind. He scored a goal against Cameroon, but it was a tame outside-of-the-box shot against Cameroon's second keeper who definitely should have saved it. Other than that, he did nothing in this tournament. Nothing. And when you know the potential that this player has to be this dominating all-action force in midfield, it is the most disappointing thing. He is the most disappointing player of this tournament for me. I'm used to seeing this guy dominate in midfield. And Serbia's midfield was their big problem. Their defense wasn't bad. Milenkovic and Pavlovic were actually really, really good. Vanja Milinkovic-Savic was really, really good in goals. The middle of the centre backs wasn't that good, but whatever. Their defense wasn't that bad. The defense was left exposed by their wing backs and their midfield because they had no solid midfielder. You could have played Milinkovic-Savic as a defensive midfielder, and I think it would have worked out better for them. He was terrible, and he actually hasn't been the same since getting bodied by the aforementioned best player in the world, Adrian Rabiot, in that match that Lazio lost to Juve, which was the last match before the World Cup break. He's my left winger. And at striker, I mulled over this for a little while. I had penciled in to go with Lukaku, but I'm not going to pick Lukaku because I don't want to pile on. I actually feel really bad for him. They chucked him on in the second half as a Hail Mary play, and the guy hasn't played for months. He shouldn't have been playing. If Belgium had done their jobs and had actually qualified, had they not lost to Morocco, had they managed to beat Croatia in a different way, had they not needed him, he wouldn't have been playing. They needed him, but unfortunately, he couldn't do the job. I feel really bad for him. He's not the guy. The guy for me is, I actually mentioned it yesterday, it's Cornelius of Denmark. This guy missed sitter of the tournament against Tunisia. He came on against Australia, and the Aussie players were laughing. They were like, okay, it's over now. It's fine. A symbol of Denmark's profligacy and just a bad player. So, Cornelius, you got a great name, but you are my striker in the flop 11. And let's just recap. In goals, it's Borjan for Canada, Atkinson right back, De Ligt and Nkulu at centre back, Ahmed from Qatar left back, Borges defensive mid with Papu Gomez and Aaron Ramsey in front of him, Muller and Sergej Milinkovic-Savic pair with Andreas Cornelius as a striker. And if this flop 11 had to have a coach, it's going to have to be Hansi Flick. Just super disappointing, man. I'm circumventing the whole one per team for coach because you're not going to pick a coach from a team that doesn't have a bad player in it. You know what I mean? So Hansi Flick is my flop coach. And that's my flop 11. The group stage saw some monster performances by some really, really good players, which is the reason why we watch this. I once again want to be fair. One player per team. It's really hard to leave a lot of people out, so I'm going to do some honorable mentions here. I've tried to go for players who featured and were decisive across 3 games, if possible, which a lot of teams rested their best 11 because they had already qualified in the 3rd game, so it's a bit tough with some of those guys, and it's a bit tough because certain players just had one monster performance and then didn't really do too much for the rest of it. I've tried to avoid that. I've tried to go for consistency across the 3 games. So let's start with goalkeeper. I was so tempted, and early on I had penciled in to go with Mohamed Al Owais, the Saudi Arabia goalkeeper, whose individual performance against Argentina was probably the best individual performance, not only by a goalkeeper, but possibly by a player of the entire group stage for me. But you didn't really hear much from him again, and Saudi Arabia flattered to deceive from there on out. So I've not gone him. I have, of course, gone with my boy Wojciech Szczesny. Poland are in the round of 16 because of this guy. He saved 2 penalties in 2 games, including one against Lionel Messi himself. And then the follow-up to the penalty save on Al Dossari from the guy who was running in was possibly save of the tournament. Fuck Lewandowski. Szczesny is Poland's talisman. He's my keeper. At right back, this was so easy at right back. It's Achraf Hakimi. For me, he's probably the best right back in the world. Just generally, Morocco were awesome. He was super, super important for them. Him and Mazraoui as the marauding right and left back. Such an underrated component of this Morocco team. I wanted to put the whole Morocco team in, but unfortunately, I've stuck to these rules. Not unfortunately. I've stuck to these rules. Man of the match against Canada. He was the official man of the match against Canada. He was electric in both of their other games. Achraf Hakimi, my man. At centre back, the first one, I gotta say, this isn't a heart pick. This is a stats pick. This is an objective. I truly feel this pick. My first centre back is Harry Souttar. I have been blown away by how good this guy is. This guy was really good against France too. You know, he really, really kept Olivier Giroud under control for a lot of it, even though Giroud ended up scoring 2 goals. He was spraying passes to the attack, cultured ball-playing centre-back, and then it goes without say, his performances against Tunisia and Denmark were monstrous. Nothing was going through this guy. I'm so impressed. And Brighton and Hove Albion, give him a call. I want you to sign him. I want that move to happen. I don't know why Brighton and Hove Albion, but I want it to be Brighton and Hove Albion. Make it happen, guys. And also, on a counter-attack, Tunisia almost equalised, and he put in my 1A to the 1B of tackle of the tournament. That was tackle of the tournament for me. If not the next centre-back's tackle of the tournament, which is, of course, Croatia's standout, Josko Gvardiol, 20 years old, looks menacing with the mask. You should have seen the bruises all over this guy. I think he broke his nose for Leipzig. The bruises all over this guy's face. He looked like a fucking warrior. He looks even scarier with this mask. The only proper young guy in this Croatian team. He's been excellent across all 3 of the games. He will continue to be excellent. And his tackle against Lukaku in one of Lukaku's supposed big misses in the previous game against Belgium. If it's not Sutar's tackle, it's this one as tackle of the tournament for me. Left back, I have gone with Ecuador's Pervis Estupiñán, another Brighton player. He was incredible against Qatar, but most notably against the Netherlands. Against the Netherlands, he was my man of the match. The whole left-hand side for Ecuador, up and down, defensively good, offensively good, energy, pace, industry, everything from this guy. And he was even one of the only players for Ecuador that tried to make things happen against Senegal. I know that Ecuador didn't go through, but he was excellent. He just moved to Brighton. Wouldn't be surprised seeing this guy playing for a bigger team moving forward. At defensive mid, it was really hard to not pick Sofiane Amrabat. He was immense for Morocco, but I went with Hakimi at right back as my representative of Morocco because I really, really wanted to shine light on another guy who was just a lock from basically the second game, but then in the third game he was just as good. I'm talking about Captain USA, Tyler Adams, just controlling the midfield in every single game against pretty decent opposition in a lot of cases, against 3 really different kinds of teams in Wales, England, and Iran. His interview was just so composed, so mature. I have fallen in love with Tyler Adams in this tournament. He's my defensive mid. Next to him, I've gone with Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni played all 3 games for France. Against Australia, he put in one of the all-time individual brilliant midfield performances that I've ever seen at a World Cup. He was good against Denmark, and he was one of the only good players against Tunisia. He's immense. And next to him, I had a few options. I thought about maybe going with Pedri or Gavi, but those guys, they were moments players. And I want to go for consistency over moments, which is why it was really hard to not pick Mohamed Kudus for this spot, who another player that I've totally fallen in love with in this tournament, but he was a moments player too. He was pretty ineffective this morning for Ghana against Uruguay. He did score 2 goals and assist 1, and in moments he looked like a world beater, but other than those moments, he was a little anonymous. The player that I thought was top to bottom, all 3 games, really, really good and consistent in both offensive and defensive play, was Jude Bellingham for England. He opened England's account. Beautiful kind of Steven Gerrard-esque header. He's great carrying the ball forward. He's great passing through the lanes. He's great defending, doing the dirty work. He's going to be one of the best players in the world for the next decade. And man, if Real Madrid really want to cough up the money to buy him and put him next to Tchouaméni, as I've got him, you can just give them the next 10 Champions Leagues as far as I'm concerned. Up front was really hard, and I am really I've made the right choice to go 1 player per team. I think that's fair, but it made things hard here. There was one that was super duper easy. Left wing has to be Cody Gakpo. I realize that he's played in a million different positions for the Netherlands here, but I think normally he's a left winger or a right winger. Either way, He plays everywhere, this guy. He has dragged the Netherlands through this tournament almost by himself. He scored the crucial winner against Senegal. He scored the first goal against Ecuador, and he scored as well to open the scoring against Qatar. He scored with his head, he scored with his right foot, he scored with his left foot. Somebody's picking this guy up at the end of this tournament. He was an easy one. Left wing, Cody Gakpo. Right wing became easy for me yesterday. I've gone with Ritsu Doan from Japan. This guy was decisive every time he stepped on the pitch. He was the super sub against both Spain and Germany. He came on and immediately made things happen. The turnaround was basically on the back of his industry, his hard work. And he was the only one making shit happen in the first half against Costa Rica, which, let's remember, was the half that Costa Rica didn't win. He's awesome. Moved from PSG to Freiburg this season. I'd love to see him get a bigger move moving forward because he's a really, really good player. Love Ritsu Doan. He's on my right wing. Now, striker for my best 11 was possibly the most difficult choice that I've had to make in this entire team picking exercise. The heart says you got to go with Enner Valencia, who is a certified World Cup legend now. But Ecuador not making it through, him not playing very well against Senegal in the final game, and me wanting to pick Estupinian at left back has left him out here. I was really impressed by Serdar Azmoun for Iran, but he didn't play in the first game and he didn't score a goal, so I can't really pick him. I was going to go with Richarlison. Because, you 2 goals in one game against Serbia, including the first golazo of the tournament. A lot of people will be saying goal of the tournament. Not me. I really like Marcus Rashford's free kick. Also, that Mexico free kick was really good. Richarlison's really good, but Richarlison didn't play against Cameroon. He didn't start against Cameroon, so that kind of rules him out here. And I just think that 2 goals in one game, yes. I know that his job is mostly pressing and making space for the other attackers as opposed to outright goal scoring himself, but he does score a lot of goals for Brazil. It was hard to not pick him, but I have decided to go with Alvaro Morata as my striker in the best 11 for this tournament. Which, given that Spain only won one game, it's kind of a bit fucked. But remember, guys, Morata scored in all 3 games. He scored a cameo goal, a consolation against Costa Rica, but he opened the scoring against Japan, and Spain didn't score another game against Japan. Didn't score another goal against Japan, so super duper crucial if they were going to do anything in that game, which they ended up doing. And he also scored off the bench as a sub against Germany, and had he not scored, Germany would have won that game, and we might be talking about Germany still in this tournament and Spain being out. Alvaro Morata is the consummate plan B for Luis Enrique, a true proper number 9, and the criticism that's always been levied against him is that his finishing is rather erratic and sometimes not very good. In this tournament, that has absolutely not been the case. He's the joint top scorer with 3 goals. Put some respect on this former Juventino's name. He's making me look like an idiot, and he's making a lot of other people look like an idiot. Credit where credit is due. Alvarito, well done. Welcome to my 11 of the tournament, which is as follows. To recap: Szczesny in goal, Hakimi right back, Harry Sutar and Josko Gvardiol at centre back, Pervis Estupinian at left back, Tyler Adams, Captain Fantastic, defensive mid with Tchouameni and Bellingham in front of him, Cody Gakpo, Mr. Netherlands on the left wing, Ritsu Doan on the right wing, and then Alvaro Morata, striker. My coach of the group stage, I've decided to go with Moriyasu from Japan. I know that they lost to Costa Rica, but the way this guy has fucked with his starting 11 each time to keep the teams guessing, and that's the beauty of having a plethora of attacking options that are all kind of different and dynamic, You've got Asano, you've got Minamino, you've got Kamada, you've got Ritsu Doan, you've got Maeda, you've got Kubo, and in each game he's just gone with, all right, we're going to pick these 3 guys, And if that's not working, well, we're going to chuck these 3 guys on afterwards. And we're going to rinse... Oh, and Mitoma. Mitoma, my fucking favorite, man. Mitoma. It was hard to pick Doan over Mitoma, but Doan was more decisive. I love Mitoma. I love him. This guy, what a player. Anyway, yeah, Moriyasu, I think he's a really tactically astute coach. And Japan have won in... Japan beat Germany and Spain. That's all I really needed to say. Moriyasu, fuck yeah. And that's my team of the group stage. Now, we're going to look ahead to tonight's 2 games. I'm not going to do full predictions for the group stage in one hit because I imagine this episode has already gone on way too long, and we'll just do it day to day because things will change day to day, injuries, psychological things, etc. So we're going to do them day to day. Tonight, the first game of the round of 16 is... Fuck, how exciting. The knockout rounds have begun of the World Cup. Cool. First game, the Netherlands versus the USA. For the first time in my entire life, I am going for the USA. I'm going to be team underdog for every single team in this tournament moving here on out. I'm hoping that we see upsets in every single game. This is one where I can see it happening the most. I don't think the USA have much to fear from the Netherlands other than pedigree, and I think that might be what is their undoing. So as much as I want USA to win, I'm not sure if Christian Pulisic is fit, even though apparently he sent a group chat message to his teammates saying, "You bet your fucking asses I'll be fit." I'm not sure if he's going to play, and I'm not sure how his fitness will hold up in the game. I think there's real momentum behind Cody Gakpo, and the Netherlands, unlike the USA, have got backup options. Memphis Depay is coming back into fitness. He is decisive as well. My bet is 2-0 Netherlands. I hope that I'm not right. I hope that the USA do them, but yeah, 2-0 Netherlands. And then, of course, we have Argentina. Messi's Argentina. The sentimental favourites for this tournament versus the Socceroos. A game that this entire nation is looking forward to. A game that Argentina will theoretically be licking their chops thinking about. I have been consistent in my, let's just say, skepticism about how well the Socceroos will do based on the players that they have and the coach that they have. And yet they have proven me wrong twice already, which has labeled me, this great unpatriotic enemy of the Socceroos, among so many other things by people on the internet and more and people in my life. But I am so hoping that the Socceroos can defend for their lives, maybe get a goal on the counter-attack, maybe take it to penalties. I don't know what's going to happen here, guys, but I think it's going to be 3-0 Argentina. I'm really sorry, but I also don't want to go ahead and turn around and say, we're going to win, when I haven't been saying we're going to win this whole time, and they've won when I've said that they will lose. So I want to keep it consistent and do my part for the effort. So let's go with 3-0 to Argentina. They're going to acquit themselves great, because they always do. They're going to battle, they're going to tackle, they're going to sit in, they're going to try and counter, they're going to pass the ball to the opposition, they're going to miscontrol the ball, they're going to hit crosses into the heads of the Argentinian players. Graham Arnold's shirt is going to come completely unraveled, and it's going to be a great spectacle for the entire nation to enjoy. I hope to see you guys tomorrow making another apology video. I hope to be sitting in front of you saying, I'm really sorry, I was wrong again. I don't think I will, but that would be nice. Also, tonight actually, I'm in a wedding in Avoca. Ooh. So I'm gonna be watching the games in Avoca. I'm gonna bring all my stuff to do a recording. I may do like a handheld cam version of the podcast. It may not be in this setting, or I may just wait until we get home at night to record an episode. Don't know, but either way, I promise you there will be an episode. There has to be. There simply has to be an episode for tomorrow, and that's that. Okay. This is Mr. Sitter. This has been the group stage. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my picks for flops and 11 of the tournament. I'm gonna be putting it on TikTok, so you can bet your ass some people are gonna be agreeing and disagreeing with me. So you may as well get involved too. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, raise your daughters, do everything that we've been asking you to do. Be cool and enjoy the start of the knockout games of the Qatar 2022 World Cup. Ciao.